I'm Catherine. Sitting in my modest apartment, sipping tea and looking at the notifications on my phone, I'm transported back to that fateful Thanksgiving day. The room was filled with chaos, my family's faces a mix of shock, anger, and disbelief. It all started at the grand dining room in my parents' estate. The room was opulent, with crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the expensive china and fresh flowers from a high-end florist. This was my family's Thanksgiving, a time more about flaunting wealth than giving thanks. My sister, Vivian, who was 36 years old, sat at the head of the table opposite our father, Henry. Father was a tough-as-nails man who had built a successful law firm over 35 years and amassed a fortune of around $800 million. Vivian was the proud CEO of Innovate Tech Solutions, a rising star in the tech industry that had gone public 3 years ago. The company had seen remarkable growth, and its stock performance had made Vivian even richer, and she never missed an opportunity to show it off. "Catherine, you can't keep playing around with stocks as if it's some kind of game," Vivian said, her voice dripping with condescension. "You're 32 now. It's time to grow up and get serious about your finances." My brother-in-law, Luke, who was all about the high life and always eager to back up Vivian, chimed in, "Vivian's right. What do you have in your portfolio? A few $100,000. That's pocket change in the real world." My mother, Amelia, a kind-hearted woman but always under father's and Vivian's influence, added with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "Catherine has always been more laid back about her ambitions. Not everyone needs to be a business tycoon." I kept my composure and said, "The turkey is delicious, Mom." But Vivian wouldn't let it go. "Stop changing the subject, Catherine. I'm trying to help you. Our company's wealth management team could triple your money in a few years. I'll set up a meeting for you. Consider it a Thanksgiving gift." I politely declined. "I appreciate your offer, Vivian, but I'm happy managing my own investments." Father cleared his throat and said, "Catherine, your sister is just trying to help. You should at least consider it. Financial security is no joke." I looked at him and nodded. "I'll think about it, Dad." The conversation then shifted to Vivian's recent acquisition, which had been in all the tech news. She was surrounded by her team, her CFO, Oliver, her COO, Lily, and her chief counsel, Ethan. They all listened intently as she explained her strategic vision, while my parents beamed with pride. I zoned out, my mind elsewhere. Then, my phone started buzzing in my pocket. I tried to ignore it, but it kept going. "Catherine, could you please silence your phone? We're having family time," Mother said sharply. I took out my phone and saw multiple missed calls from my contact at Morgan Stanley, along with several urgent emails and texts. Vivian asked with feigned concern, "Everything okay? Not having a stock market meltdown with your small portfolio, are you?" I quickly said it was spam and tried to put the phone away, but it rang again. I apologetically answered the call and stepped into the hallway. On the other end, my contact from Morgan Stanley was breathless. "Ms. Catherine, I've been trying to reach you. There's a situation with your position in Innovate Tech Solutions. The sell order you placed last week for your $250 million worth of shares executed this morning. But in the past hour, there's been a huge panic in the market. Someone leaked news about a major shareholder selling, and now the stock is down 34% and dropping fast. The company has lost over $900 million in market cap in the last 90 minutes. I took a deep breath and asked, "What's the current price?" $31. 45 and falling. You sold at $54. 20. You've just made approximately $247 million in profit before the crash. But the market is in a frenzy, and everyone is trying to find out who the major shareholder was. I thanked him and asked him to keep me updated and prepare a full report. I knew about the accounting irregularities at Innovate Tech for 6 months. That's why I decided to sell, but I didn't expect the information to leak so quickly. I hesitated for a moment in the study. I could have just left through the side door and gone home, but something made me go back to the dining room. Just as I sat down, the front door burst open. It was Nora, Vivian's executive assistant. She rushed in, looking panicked. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, miss Vivian, but there's a major emergency. Your major shareholder just sold $250 million worth of shares. The stock has plummeted, trading has been halted several times, and the board has called an emergency meeting. The SEC is asking questions, and the media is outside the office." Vivian's face turned pale. "That's impossible. Our major investors are long-term," Nora said, her voice shaking. It was an individual investor. Someone who had been quietly buying shares for years and dumped everything yesterday morning. The news just went public an hour ago. Oliver quickly checked his phone and said, "The stock was at $54 this morning, and now it's at $29. We've lost over $1 billion in market cap." Lily, looking terrified, asked, "Who sold?" Before Nora could answer, Ethan said, looking grim at his phone, "We have a bigger problem. Bloomberg is reporting that the SEC has opened an investigation into Innovate-Teka's accounting practices. There are allegations of revenue recognition irregularities." Vivian's confidence started to crumble. "Oliver, you reviewed the quarterly reports. There's nothing wrong with our accounting, right?" Oliver avoided her gaze. "There were some aggressive interpretations of revenue recognition standards. Nothing illegal, just optimistic. But if the SEC looks closely," Ethan demanded, "define aggressive interpretations." Oliver admitted quietly, "We may have recognized revenue on some contracts before they were fully executed, and there were some expense capitalizations that might not stand up to strict scrutiny." Father stood up, looking angry. "Vivian, what is he talking about? What have you done?" Vivian insisted, her voice rising, "It's standard industry practice. Every tech company does it to maximize earnings. It's completely normal." Luke said flatly, "Standard practices that you're being investigated for." Just then, Lily exclaimed, "CNBC is running a special report about the Innovate-Teka collapse. Vivian, your picture is on national TV." Mother let out a small cry, and Vivian looked like she was about to be sick. "Who sold the shares?" "Someone knew about the investigation." "That's insider trading," she shouted. Ethan then said quietly, "It was Catherine. I just got an email from our transfer agent. The major shareholder who sold is listed under Catherine's investment holding company. I remember because we had to file when she crossed the 5% ownership threshold 4 years ago." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at me. Father sat down heavily. "That's impossible. Catherine doesn't have that kind of money." I spoke up softly. "I started investing 8 years ago, right after I got my MBA from Harvard. I used a $2 million inheritance from my grandmother. I bought shares in several undervalued companies, and Innovate-Teka was one of them. It was a private company worth about $80 million back then, and I bought in at $8 per share through a private placement round." Vivian looked at me in disbelief. "You've been a major shareholder in my company for 8 years, and you never told me?" I replied, "You never asked, and you made it clear that you didn't want my input in business matters. You've always treated my investments like a joke." Luke was looking at his phone and said in shock, "Catherine, you're trending on Twitter. Financial Twitter is going crazy trying to find out who timed the Innovate-Teka exit perfectly. They're calling you the Oracle of tech stocks." I said, "I'm not an oracle. I just do my research. 6 months ago, I noticed problems in Innovate-Teka's revenue recognition. The numbers didn't match up with industry standards. I dug deeper and found concerning expense capitalization patterns. I tried to tell you last year, but you said you were too busy to talk to someone who played with stocks." Vivian shouted, "You destroyed my company. Your selling caused a panic." I calmly replied, "Your aggressive accounting practices triggered the SEC investigation, which destroyed confidence in the company. I just sold before the news became public. Vivian insisted it was insider trading, but Ethan said, if Catherine based her decisions on public filings and her own analysis, it's not insider trading. It's just good investing. Vivian screamed, she's my sister. She had access to information. I retorted firmly, you've excluded me from every business discussion about Innovate Tech for 8 years. There's no way I had inside information. Oliver spoke up, his voice hollow. The emergency board meeting is in an hour. Vivian, we need to prepare. If the SEC finds what I think they will, we're looking at restatements, fines, and maybe even criminal charges. Mother gasped, criminal charges? Yes, for accounting fraud if they determine revenue was intentionally misstated, Ethan said. Vivian looked like she was about to collapse. I didn't mean to deceive anyone. I just wanted to show growth and keep the stock price up. I said gently, Vivian, I know you didn't mean for it to go this far, but you surrounded yourself with people who only told you what you wanted to hear. When I tried to raise concerns, you dismissed me. Amanda was pulling at Vivian's arm. Ms. Vivian, we have to go. The board is waiting, and the press is getting more aggressive. Vivian stood up shakily. She looked at me one last time and asked, how much are you worth now, Catherine? I said quietly, approximately $890 million after selling my Innovate Tech shares. I've invested in 16 other companies across different sectors, and most are doing well. Vivian laughed bitterly. We spent years telling you that you didn't understand wealth, and here you are, worth more than me and Dad combined. After Vivian left with her team, Father walked to the bar and poured himself a drink. Catherine, I don't understand why you lived so modestly if you're so rich. I replied, I live within my means. I don't need a mansion or a fancy car to feel successful. And I was curious to see how long it would take for you all to actually ask about my life instead of assuming things. Mother said softly, it took 8 years and a financial disaster for us to really notice you. Luke asked, what will happen to Vivian and Innovate Tech? I said, it depends on what the SEC finds. If the accounting issues are serious, she's looking at heavy fines, restatements, and possible criminal charges. The company might survive if they clean up, but it's uncertain. Mother pleaded, can you help her, Catherine? You have the money. I said firmly, buying back into a company under investigation for fraud would be financial suicide. I sold because the company is fundamentally unsound. I'm sorry for Vivian, but I won't ruin my own financial position to save her from the consequences of her actions. Father said, Catherine, we owe you an apology. We underestimated you. Can you forgive us? I thought for a moment. Eventually, maybe. But right now, I need some space. Mother walked over to me and said with a cracking voice, I'm proud of you, Catherine. I should have said that years ago. I left through the side door to avoid the press. My ordinary car was parked on the street. As I drove home, my phone rang. It was Morgan Stanley again. They said several media outlets, including Bloomberg, CNBC, and the Wall Street Journal, wanted to interview me about my Innovate Tech exit. I declined, I'm a private investor. I don't seek publicity. Please decline all media requests for me. They also mentioned that some venture capital firms and hedge funds were interested in having me manage their money or serve as an advisor with substantial fees. I told them I'd think about it. Back at my apartment, I opened my laptop and saw that Innovate Tech's stock was still falling, now down 55% from the morning. My other investments were performing well. The TechVantage sale had netted me $247 million in profit, and my other positions had gained another $12 million. It was more money than I'd ever imagined, but it wasn't about the money. It was about being underestimated and proving my worth. The next morning, I woke up to news that Innovate Tech's stock had continued to fall overnight, Vivian had been placed on administrative leave, and Oliver had resigned. There were also messages from investment firms and a professor from Harvard asking if I'd be interested in teaching a course on value investing. My father called again to apologize and ask if I could look at his law firm's finances. I agreed to review the financial statements. He also invited me and mother for a dinner to get to know the real me. I sat back in my chair, sipping my coffee, and opened the first financial statement. It was a new day, and there were always new investment opportunities waiting for me. As I read the lines and numbers, I knew that the lessons learned from this experience were invaluable, and the future held endless possibilities.